All righty. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30, but it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons of the New York Football Giants in 98 days. I'm not going to get it done in 98 days. I'm trying to hope I'll get it done before the beginning of the season, which starts obviously in September. I think I'll be able to get it done then. But as we forge ahead, we are the 1938 season, which just happened to be the 14th season in the history of the New York Football Giants. It was also the 19th season in the history of the NFL. NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925, so the Giants are 5 years behind, or however you want to put it. But 1938 be very, very good to the New York Giants. They finally tied everything all together and brought home championship number 3. It's their second championship game victory, but it's their third NFL championship altogether, because in 1927 they won the title. They had the best overall winning percentage, so they won the title. There was no championship games back then. Also in 1938, the Giants became the first team in NFL history to win 2 championship games. The 38 season was the 6th, because I thought the championship game started in 1933. So the 1938 game was the 6th game in the history of the championship game. So the 6 teams, the Bears won 1, the Redskins won 1, the Packers won 1, the Lions won 1, and the Giants won in 1934, 1938. Unfortunately for the Giants, it would be until 1956 for them to win another one, but they didn't have a lot of good luck in the championship games. Matter of fact, after this one, what we got? 4. After this 1938 championship win in the championship game, they were before the Super Bowl started, before the Super Bowl era started. So basically after 1938, so from 1939 to 1965, the championship era without the Super Bowl, the Giants went to 10 more championship games. They only won 1. They were 1-9 in their next 10 championship games. So, but that's another story for another day. Right now, we need to rejoice and be happy. The 1938, they kind of tied it all together. They went to the first 3 championship games. They won in 1933. They went in 1934, and the Giants went in 1935. 36 and 37, they just couldn't tie it all together. However, they did have a chance. Basically the same. This past 3 seasons, the same thing happened all 3 seasons. The final game of the season. I just want to make sure they were at home here. Okay. The final thing happened the same past 3 seasons. The final game of the season was against the Redskins. If the Giants won the game, they would have gone to the championship game. 1936, they lost 14-0, and they played them at home too. It's the 3rd year in a row. They played the Redskins at home. Final game of the season. Whoever won the game went to the championship. It was actually the past couple of years. I think even if the Giants tied, they would have gone to the championship game. But the Giants lost to the Redskins in the final game of the season. In 1936, they lost 14-0. The Redskins at the time were in Boston. They went to the championship game where they lost 21-6 to the Packers. 1937, the final game of the season was played at the Polo Grounds. Giants were home against the Redskins. This time there was the Washington Redskins, because they moved to Washington. And if the Giants won that game at home, they would have gone to the championship game. They lost 49-14. They got whooped up on. The rest of the Washington Redskins, went to the championship game. They beat the Chicago Bears 28-21 in the championship game. So here we are once again, 1938, final game of the season. The Giants needed, I believe, a win or a tie. They were at home against the Washington Redskins. The Giants won or tied. They went to the championship game. Not only did they win, they shut them out, 36-0. So, I mean, this was first season in a few years, the Giants actually, their defense was really good. The final, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, final 8 games. They only gave up double-digit points one time in the final 8 games. I mean, they really, 1, 2, the final 5 games, they gave up 10 points. I mean, they really, really did good. I mean, their offense scored a bunch of points. They scored single digits 2 times. I mean, they tied it all together. And in the championship game, they hosted the championship game because there was 2 divisions, the Western Division and the Eastern Division. The Western Division hosted the odd-yeared championship game. So 33, 1935, 1937, 1939, the Western Division. The Eastern Division was 34, 36, 38, 40. So this is 1938. So the New York Giants were the host at the Polo Grounds. They played the Green Bay Packers, and they wound up winning. So, all right. So let's go here. 1938 NFL season. 1938 NFL season was the 19th regular season of the National Football League. It was the 14th season for the Giants, the 19th for the NFL. The season ended with the New York Giants defeating the Green Bay Packers for the National NFL Championship. The draft. Now, this is the 3rd year in a row we had the draft. The draft started in 1936. This is the 3rd year in a row it was held at a different place. First year in 36 it was held in Philadelphia. 37 was in New York. This year it was held in Chicago. The 1938 NFL draft was held on December 12, 1937 at Chicago's Hotel Sherman. With the first pick, the Cleveland Rams selected fullback Corbett Davis from Indiana University, Bloomington. Holy cow. There you go. Major rule changes. A new 15-yard roughing the passer penalty was a lot of it had to do with because Sammy Baugh was getting pounded a lot. And he was the new star of the league. He was like the new sheriff, and he was getting hit a lot. So they 15-yard roughing the passer after the quarterback threw the ball. If a kickoff goes out of bounds, the receiving team may opt to take possession of the ball at their own 45-yard line. Wow. And the penalty for a second forward pass during a play is changed from 5 yards and a loss of down to just 5 yards. All right. Division races. In Week 7, the Bears lost at home to the Rams 23-21, while the Packers beat the Pirates. The Pirates would eventually become the Pittsburgh Pirates, would eventually become the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Packers beat the Pirates 20-0, giving Green Bay the lead for the first time. The Packers won their next 3 games to clinch the Western Division. The Eastern Division, the Redskins led until Week 10 when they fell to the Bears 31-7. And the Giants' 28-0 win over the Rams gave New York the division lead on November 13th. The division title still came down to the last day of the regular season, December 4th, 1938, at the Polo Grounds, when 57,000, that's a lot of people back then, 57,461 turned out at the Polo Grounds in New York to watch the 7-2 Giants host the 6-2 Redskins. A Washington win would have made them 7-2 and the Giants 7-3-1, with the Skins as division champs. New York needed only to win or tie, and they did the former. They won in five touchdowns and route to a 36-0 victory. They also had 4 neutral site games were held, 2 at the Civic Stadium in Buffalo, 1 in Erie, Pennsylvania, and 1 in Charleston, West Virginia. Wow. Let's see, the Green Bay Packers, they won. They won by 1. They were 8-3. The Detroit Lions were 7-4. So the Packers won by 1 game. The Giants were 8-1. Washington Redskins were 6-3-2. The Giants only gave up 79 points. They had by far the best defense. No other team gave up single digits in points. The lowest was the Lions gave up 108 points. So the Giants gave up 79 points in 11 games. They basically gave up a touchdown a game. They scored 194 points, which was tied for second most. So, I mean, they had that phenomenal season. So also, after being crowned champion, the Giants faced a team of pro all-stars An all-star team consisting mostly of NFL players, but also included 3 players from the Los Angeles Bulldogs in an exhibition game at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. On January 15, 1939, the game which the Giants won 13-10 was the first of 5 annual NFL All-Star games held under the format. Interesting. Let's see here. Okay, Ace Parker of the Brooklyn Dodgers was the passing leader with 865 yards. The rushing leader was Whizzer White of Pittsburgh, the Pirates, for 567 yards. The receiving leader was Don Hudson of Green Bay with 548 yards. Now this shows you how special this guy was, Mel Hein. Now you know why his number 7 is retired for the New York Giants. He won the Most Valuable Player award. He was a center. All right, pretty special. When you're a center, and I guess he played maybe linebacker on defense, but he was best known for being a center. So he won the MVP as a center. Pretty impressive. The 1938 draft, let's see here. I said it was held on December 12, 1937 at the Sherman House Hotel in Chicago, Illinois. The Giants selected Alex Wojciechowski. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry. No. That was the Lions. The Giants selected in the first round, pick number 8 overall, George Karamatic, a back from Gonzaga. Now, there was 12 rounds, okay? The first draft in 1936, there was 9 rounds. 1937, there was 10 rounds. This year, there was 12 rounds. The Giants also selected, let's see, Fred Vanzo, a back from Northwestern. Marion Coneman, a back from Georgia Tech. Frank Sochak, an end from Pittsburgh. Kelly Moan, a halfback from West Virginia. Ted Doyle, a back from Nebraska. Took a lot of backs. John Mellis, a tackle from Villanova. Wow. Bob Grimsteed, a tackle from Washington State. Doug Oldershaw, an end from Santa Barbara State. There you go, right? And Elmore Hackney, a fullback from Duke, right? There you go. He was the first Duker ever. First Duker for the Giants. Elmore Hackney in the 1938 draft. So you're a little pissed off about the Giants taking, there was Dave Brown, and maybe some of you guys still hate Daniel Jones from Duke. Well, the first Duker ever, Elmore Hackney, a fullback from Duke in the 1938 NFL draft in round 12 for the New York Football Giants. Let's see here. Now the Giants, as always, okay, they always started every season on the road. Always. Because they were sharing the Polo Grounds with the Giants, the New York baseball Giants, and usually they want. I'm imagining they wanted to start the season. The Giants wanted to start their football season after all hope of the baseball season being over, just in case. I guess the Giants made it to the World Series. I guess they didn't want the football Giants, to be chewing up the ground. Because back then, I mean, like the way it is nowadays, they can just resod the field, like it's nothing. Well, that wasn't like that back then. They resod nothing. So the Giants chewed up the field. The baseball team was pretty much screwed. So the Giants always started on the road, especially at least the first 2 games. A lot of times it was up to the first 4 games they started on the road. Well, this year they only started. It was the first 2 games that they were on the road. Let's see here. First game was September 11th. They played the Pittsburgh Pirates on the road. They won 27-14. 2 weeks later, right? So they had a bye week. Week 2, they had a bye week. Right? Who knew? The Giants traveled to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. They lost 14-10. I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, the Giants had 339 yards of offense. They had 18 first downs. The Eagles had 5 first downs. The Eagles had 87 yards of offense. So the Giants had 250 yards more of offense. They had 13 more first downs, but the Eagles won 14-10. Let me see. I mean, was there like an interception return here or something? I mean, yeah, the Giants outplayed them big time. Let's see. Yep, there you go. Oh my God, look at that! Is that unfreaking believable? The Eagles scored on an 88-yard fumble return. So basically, the Giants got down to the Eagles 12, and the Eagles ran it back 88 yards for a touchdown. With the Giants winning 10-7 and driving, they got down inside the Eagles' 10-yard line. They fumbled the ball. Joe Carter of the Eagles picked it up and ran back 92 yards for a touchdown. So the Eagles' offense didn't score at all. The Giants, 2 turnovers. Actually, the Giants had 3 turnovers. So the Giants, 2 fumbles, gave the Eagles their only 2 touchdowns. So the Giants should have won this game going away. So they ran the ball back 180 yards, 2 fumbles. They ran it back 180 yards for 2 touchdowns. So that's how the Giants lost to the Eagles on this one. But I mean, the Giants definitely, without question, should have won that game. But then the Giants came home on October 3rd. That's an early start for the Giants. Play a game on October 3rd. But they played the Pittsburgh Pirates at home. All right. And they lost 13-10. But that would be the last time they would lose all season long. They lost 13-10. The following week, they were on the road, and they played the Washington Redskins. Usually that's what wound up happening. They played Washington earlier in the season, and then they played at home against the Redskins, the final game of the season. So their 4th game of the season on October 9th. Actually, by the way, that Pittsburgh Pirate game was a Monday game. But so the following week on October 9th, Sunday, October 9th, they played the Washington Redskins. They beat them 10-7. So now the Giants were 2-2. The following week at home, they played on October 16th, Sunday, October 16th. They played at home against the Eagles, and they won 17-7. Once again, the Eagles had a grand total of 4 first downs. So the Eagles played the Giants 2 times, and the Eagles had a grand total of 9 first downs between both games. Let's see. Then on Sunday, October 23rd, the Brooklyn Dodgers came to town. The Giants beat them 28-14. And so the Giants after that, were 4-2. They had 5 games left in the regular season, and the Giants did not give up double-digit points again for the remainder of the regular season. The following week, on Sunday, November 6th, at home, they faced the Chicago Cardinals, and they won 6-0. The following week, the rather bad Cleveland Rams came to town. The Giants won 28-0. All right, so they pushed their record to 6-2. That was on Sunday, November 13th at home. They beat the Rams 28-0. Now the Giants are 6-2. The following week, all right, the Green Bay Packers came to town. So the Green Bay Packers played the Giants 2 times at the Polo Grounds. 1 time during the regular season, 1 time in the championship game. So the Giants played the Packers, and they beat them 15-3. Now, I mean, the Giants kind of got a little lucky here, because the Giants had 6 first downs the whole game. The Packers had 20. The Packers had 307 yards, but the Packers had 5 turnovers. That's what kind of did the Packers in this game. Let's see. How did the Giants go to kick? I didn't kick 5 field goals, did they? Oh, here we go now. Let's see. The Giants got there was no scoring in the first half. The Giants got a safety in the 3rd quarter. That's what did it. Yep. Then the Packers kicked the field goal to go up 3-2. Then Tuffy Lehman's got a 75-yard run for a touchdown, and he kicked the extra point. So then the Giants were up 9-3. The Packers started, I guess, kind of moving down the field, but in the 4th quarter, Mel Hein, the MVP of the league in 1938, picked off a pass, ran it back 50 yards for a touchdown to give the Giants their final score and make the game 15-3. So that was a tough game. That was a tough game against the Packers. So, but with that win, All right, against the Packers, put the Giants at 7-2. And that was on Sunday, November 20th. Now, as what happened every year, the Giants once again played on Thanksgiving. Once again, they played on the road. And once again, they played a team from New York every year. This year, once again, they played the Brooklyn Dodgers once again in Ebbets Field, where the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team played. That game ended in a 7-7 tie. So now the Giants are 7-2-1. Once again, the final game of the season. Came down to at the Polo Grounds. All the Giants had to do was tie or win, and they were in, and they won 36-0. Well, let's see. I mean, they must have. Oh my goodness! Wow, I didn't even see that. The Redskins had 10 turnovers. Let me see how many of these turnovers resulted, because the Giants had 5 first downs in the whole game. Somehow they scored 36 points and they had 5 first downs. Let's see how many of these. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these had to do with turnovers, but Ward Cuff had a 96-yard interception return, and Ward Cuff kicked the extra point too. He was a busy man. And then Chuck Jalaka had a 7-yard interception return also as well. So, I mean, but the Redskins had 10 turnovers. Does it have it here? What? Okay. Yeah, okay. The Redskins fumbled the ball 7 times in this last game. They lost 4 fumbles. They also had 6 interceptions. Wow. Giants only had 1 turnover. So that just goes to show you how, who, what, where, when, why they wind up winning. I mean, the Redskins had 13 first downs. Giants had 5. Giants only had 160 yards of offense, but all the turnovers, they wind up winning 36-0. So the Giants finally tied everything all together. They got themselves to the championship game, and they would wind up hosting the championship game. And it wound up being it was a very good championship game. Just kind of went back and forth a little bit. The Giants went up. Let's see here. The Giants went up 9-0 in the first quarter. Then the Packers at halftime, it was 16-14. The Giants were winning. Then the Packers kicked a field goal to go up 17-16. Then the Giants scored their final touchdown to make it 23-17, and nobody scored in the fourth quarter. So we got the 1938 NFL Championship game. Was the 6th NFL Championship game played in the National Football League. It was played on December 11th at the Polo Grounds in New York City, with an attendance of 48,120, which was a record crowd for a title game at the time. The game matched in the 8-2-1 New York Giants, the champions of the Eastern Division, against the Western Division champion Green Bay Packers, who were 8-3-0. The Giants had won the regular season game with Green Bay 15-3 at the Polo Grounds 3 weeks earlier on November 20th. But Green Bay was without Hall of Fame and Don Hutson. There was no clear favorite for the title game. So they didn't have Don Hutson when they beat him 15-3. So Don Hutson's a Hall of Fame wide receiver, one of the greatest of all time. This was the Giants' 4th championship game appearance. The previous victory was in the famous Sneakers game in 1934. As they were runners up in 1933. They lost to the Bears 23-21 in 1933. Then they lost to the Detroit Lions 26-7 in 1935. It was the Packers' 2nd trip, winning in 1936. New York also won the 1927 NFL title, and the championship was awarded to the team with the best season record. Green Bay had similarly won 3 straight titles. So the Green Bay Packers 2 times won the title 3 years in a row. 1929, 30, and 31. The Packers won. They also won 65, 66, and 67. At halftime, the Packers head coach Curly Lambeau, this is funny, accidentally made a wrong turn going to the team's locker room and walked out of the Polo Grounds. Locked himself out. Hurrying to the front gate, Lambeau tried to get back into the grounds, but the guards at the gate believed Lambeau was a random fan and refused him entry. As Lambeau loudly protested, a couple of sports writers inside heard the commotion and identified Lambeau. The guards allowed him back in, by which time halftime was nearly over. After trailing by 2 points at halftime, Green Bay took the lead in the third quarter with a short field goal. It was a 15-yard field goal. So they were up 17-16. But the New York responded with a touchdown and held on through a scoreless fourth quarter to win 23-17. Now, let's see. Where we at here? Okay. Let's see. With the floodlights, this is in the fourth quarter, with the floodlights burning through the darkness, the Packers moved from their 20 to the New York 40 with 4 minutes remaining. Fourth down overtook them there with 10 yards to go. Everyone knew what was going to happen when Don Hutson and Herbert trotted off the bench. Herbert, helmetless, with bushy hair and a dark halo under the lights, Arnie faded to midfield and threw one high toward the goal line. It bounced free on the 5 as Hudson was herded out of the play. 2 minutes later, the Packers had the ball again after Giants Danowski punted into the end zone. Herbert tried the hook and a ladder play. He threw to Carl Molino. As a posse of Giants closed in on Carl, he lateraled it to Hudson. Don pivoted on one heel and seemed to have a clear path toward the goal, but Soar of the Giants reached out and pulled him down from behind after a 40-yard gain. As the last seconds ticked off, Herbert tried to get off a desperation pass, but the Giants' furious rush caused the pass to bounce crazily on the soggy turf with no receiver near it. And the place was going bananas. I just threw that in there. But the first downs, the Packers at 14, the Giants 10. Rushing yards, Packers had 161 to the Giants 115. Passing yards, Packers had 214. The Giants only had 94. Return yards, the Giants had 116. The Packers had 59. Fumbles lost, the Packers lost 2 fumbles. Penalty yards, the Packers had 20. Giants had 10. So the Packers had more yards, right? Obviously, but they didn't have more points, and that's all that mattered. With the victory, the Giants became the first team to win 2 championship games since the league was split into 2 divisions in 1933. The 2 teams met again in the championship game in Milwaukee next season in 1939, and that was a total dismantling. The Packers won 27-0. Ed Danowski became the first Giants starting quarterback to win 2 NFL championships for the team. So Ed Danowski, okay, Eli Manning is the other. Ed Danowski became the first Giants quarterback. All right, so 1934 and 1938, Ed Danowski was the starting quarterback for the Giants. He won 2 NFL championship games. Right? So the second one was Eli Manning. But there was another thing I wanted to read this off here too. Post game. Let's see. Is that it? Oh, here we go. Afterwards, this just goes to show you how brutal a game it was back then. After the game was over, Del Isola and Ward Cuff were taken to the hospital with possible fractures to the vertebrae and breastbone. All right. Respectively, Mel Hine also had his concussion checked out as well, too. You had guys, I'm sure they had concussions all the time back then. Let's see. Don Hutson said in 1984, he recalled the 1938 title game. In all my career, that was the only time that an injury kept me out of a game. We played the New York Giants for the title that year, and I felt we were a better team than they were. We should have won the game. We even played better than they did that day. They had a lot more yards. But we lost it on a couple of kicks they blocked and were able to take advantage of it. Yep. I know the Giants had blocked a couple of kicks and wound up turning them into points, which wound up obviously being huge. Let's see. in the first quarter with Hudson on the sideline. He came in, he played a few plays, but he was just injured. So the Packers could go nowhere on their first two possessions when Hinkle attempted to punt. Hinkle was from the with the Packers. When he attempted to punt for the second time, Jim Lee Howell, who's going to be the coach of the Giants from 1954 to 1960, okay, he flashed in, crashed in, blocked the punt, then caught the ball in the air and was dropped at the 7-yard line. The Giants can only gain a yard on 2 rushes. So a one-time collegiate javelin champion booted a field goal from the 13. 2 minutes later, Green Bay had to punt again. This time the opposite end, Jim Poole blocked the punt. Jim Lee Howell covering the ball on the 27. It took the G-men only 4 plays to cross the goal line. A short pass gained 4. Then Tuffy Lehmans went to work. He made 3 over left guard, then hit off left tackle and cut back on a twisting run that put the leather at the 6. On the next snap, he crashed through the left tackle and despite being hit 4 times, dove over. Unfortunately, John Gildia missed the extra point, but the Giants led 9-0. So their first 9 points were due to blocked punts. So if the Giants didn't block those punts, quite possibly they didn't wind up winning the football game. But there's an incident, a little caveat to this. See, Don Hudson was talking about being the better player, and they were the better team, and he was injured, and blah, 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 blah. And I get that and all that stuff and everything. But however, if we go to the 1941 NFL championship game, now 1944 championship game, the New York Giants, the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants faced each other in the 1944 championship game. The Packers would win 14-7. However, the Packers had 3 weeks to rest up for the game. The Packers season was over. It wasn't until 3 weeks later that they had to play in the championship game. So they had all guys that were all rested and everything. The Giants played their final game, and then the very next week, the Giants had to play the championship game. The Giants had a lot of guys. They had a couple guys who couldn't even play. One guy went in, I forgot who it was, went in. One of their star players went in, and this is the 1944 championship game. They went in. I think he played for a series. He couldn't go because he was too banged up. He was too injured. So he had to come out. So the Giants had 1 week of rest before the championship game. The Packers had 3. The Packers were all nice and healthy, like the Giants were in this one, right? The Giants were banged up. Their stars couldn't go, and the Giants lost a tough game, 14-7. Had the Giants had 3 weeks of rest like the Packers did, had the Giants had all their stars healthy like the Packers did, the Giants probably would have won that game. So it is what it is. The Packers maybe got screwed in the 38 game because Don Hudson was hurt, while the Giants got screwed in the 44 championship game. It is what it is. So the 44 Giants, that's one of those missing rings without question. The Giants were probably the better team. The Giants probably should have won the championship game in 44, but they got screwed over because of the Packers had 3 weeks rest and the Giants had a bunch of banged up players. Some of them couldn't even go. So it is what it is. But that was the 1938 season for the New York Football Giants. Their 3rd championship. They won in 27. They won in 1934 and 38. So their 3rd NFL championship game. So, but better times were once again we're ahead for the Giants. The Giants would go back to the championship game in 39, 41, 44, and 46. Unfortunately, they wouldn't win any of them. But the 1938 season was very, very good to the New York Football Giants. All right, well, that wraps it up for the 1938 season. I'll be back again tomorrow with the 1939 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 15th season in the history of the New York Football Giants. I'll see you then.